In this presentation, I want to deal with a section of veiled sentiments where the author Abu-Lughod talks about Hasham reconsidered, the deference and denial of sexuality, which is pages 152, pages 159 of my edition. Hasham briefly is something like shame or shyness, and we'll talk about that more as we go on. Now I'm quoting Abu-Lughod here. To describe a woman as someone who Tahashshams, referring both to the emotion that motivates sexual propriety and to the acts that mark it, is the highest compliment. So if you say about a woman that she Tahashshams, you're providing a huge compliment to her. So what is this Tahashsham in the Awlad Ali Bedouin context? Well, to quote again, the woman who Tahashshams does not let herself be seen by men unless it is absolutely unavoidable, or unless, as with certain categories of men described below, it is unnecessary to avoid them. So there are certain men you don't have to worry about avoiding, such as your nephew, your mukrim, which are, that's an Indonesian word for an Islamic concept, meaning the men you can't marry, such as your brothers, your father, and your uncle. So you can be seen with them, but anybody else you should try to avoid, because if you don't avoid them, you're not Tahashsham. If you're a Tahashsham woman, you don't wear makeup. You wear thick, not thin veils. There's a picture of a veil, of course, on the cover of the book. You show restraint in your talking and eating and laughing. Abu-Lughod recounts a funny anecdote where she had been interviewing some men, and she was reprimanded by some other women afterwards for flirting with them because she had looked into their eyes and shown too much interest. So you should be quite modest if you're Tahashsham. And it's a very important goal in socialization, that is, turning girls into women, is to teach them how to be Tahashsham. And the most important thing is to deny your sexuality. You should be completely uninterested in sex. And if you show any interest in sex, you'll be teased humorously by your kin, by other women. For example, one example is a young woman reported that her older sister had pinched her between the legs when she caught her peeking at an attractive man through the side of the tent. So she was peering out, spying on this attractive man, and then her cousin came and pinched her between the legs. Another case, two women bought some sort of skimpy negligees from a travelling salesman. The grandma found out and paraded around wearing them in front of everybody, probably, "Ooh, I'm so sexy, ooh, I'm so sexy," just to tease the girls. And that's how you sort of show them, you show girls how to be Tahashsham. Now, a Tahashsham girl, if a groom comes to propose to the husband, she'll cry. And then on the night of the wedding, she should try to fight off the groom, make a big deal of not giving into sex. So you've got to mask any sort of sexual or romantic attachment to your husband, especially in public. So you shouldn't be, in public, you should be very formal and distant to your husband. Unlike, again, those terrible Egyptians whose husbands and wives show affection to each other. And you should never be jealous, because it shows you've got an excessive desire or interest in your husband. So if your husband is, having sex with the other wives, you should be happy. So it's different for men, because, to quote, men's honour also rests on their mastery of natural passions and functions. The primary forces men must master in themselves are fear, pain, hunger, and dependency. Thus, only insofar as sexuality leads to dependency, men must deny it. So men deny sexuality only because they don't want to become too beholden to women, whereas a woman's sex drive threatens the entire social order as the Bedouins of Awlad Ali understand it. So it must be suppressed. Women should exhibit Hasham, which is this shyness, with people who are of superior status. I imagine, like the president or grandfathers from within their Patri clan and other clans, and also with strangers. But they're not expected to be Hasham with other women, particularly close kin, age mates, or people other women they're familiar with. So with their peers and close associates, they can be actually quite bawdy and over the top. And also with certain men, for example, nephews in particular, they can be very relaxed and intimate and talk about sex. And they can show, quite shameless humour in those contexts. But as I mentioned, they've got to mask their affection for their husband, particularly in public and especially around elder men. Hasham, or this shame, she says, is situational. It's a shame of lesser moral worthiness and voluntary deference for those of greater moral worth. So women show that they are of lower social status, acknowledge their lower social status, acknowledge their low moral worth in front of superior men in this system by showing their Hasham, which makes them Tahashsham woman. So it's the respect for the elders and respect for the social system. So the ideal woman is a woman who Tahashshams, and that woman is the daughter of a man. So her father can be proud of her. And when it comes to sex then, premarital sex is basically for sluts who don't care about their family and their kinsmen. Because a man's honour depends on the deference shown to him by his dependents, particularly the women of his clan. Therefore, if the women do not show him deference, they take away his honour, which is crucial in Awlad Ali's society. And this Abu-Lughod argues explains why there are honour killings. She doesn't talk about them much at this part of the book, and I assume it comes later, but I think this is the case where a woman might engage with premarital sex and then be killed by her father's people for bringing shame to the family. So adultery and premarital sex outside marriage, is a problem for patrikin, for the father's family. And it's not particularly a problem for the husband, because the husband's is not really shamed by it. Because remember, the woman is always an outsider unless he's married his cross cousin, which is sometimes the case. Sorry, his parallel, not cross. Unless he's married his parallel cousin, unless he's married his father's brother's daughter, he doesn't really care about the wives and their behaviour, only in so much as they provide him with his children. And the wives are expendable. And therefore, if a wife commits adultery, he doesn't really care, he can marry somebody else. But it's a great dishonour to the wife's father and the wife's brother, in other words, to her family. And that is the context, according to Abu-Lughod, of veiling. So it's in front of these men who you should show respect to, whose honour you should protect, that you wear a veil. So you must wear a veil in front of men who are men of authority. So the point she's trying to make here, and I'll conclude the presentation here at page 161, is it's not exclusively a sexual thing. It's not about hiding your sexuality or not being sexually available. It's about showing deference and honour to men of authority, showing that you have Hasham or that you are a woman who Tahashshams.